Welcome to the Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast, a podcast for OU recruiting fans by Sooners 360. Each week we catch you up on the latest in OU recruiting news and provide opinions and evaluations on all things OU football recruiting. I'm Chris Mason, lead recruiting analyst for Sooners 360. This podcast is sponsored by Sooners 360 on Patreon. To support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Sooners360817 or just go to patreon.com and search for Sooners 360. You go ahead and once you go there, go ahead and subscribe. It's only $2 a month. There's also a free trial option, and that's where I'm posting all of my regular recruiting content. The link will also be in the show notes. This podcast is now part of the Believe podcast family. Every team, every topic, everywhere. I'm also appearing on the Horns Down podcast YouTube channel, along with Chris with a K. And also Jason Watkins from the Hall of Fame podcast joins us. And we're doing kind of a roundtable live stream every Friday discussing OU season, whether that means the upcoming season, recruiting season, what's going on with the program, what's going on elsewhere. So we do that every Friday night. To have access to that, please subscribe to the Sooners 360 YouTube channel. You can find you'll be notified of the live recordings, and you'll also be able to go to, if you go to the live section of the Sooners 360 channel, you can find the previous recordings to review them at your leisure. To find that, just simply go to youtube.com and go search for Sooners 360. You'll find the channel with the wagon wheel logo. So this is episode 133. New QB, new commits, some strange losses. So to the recruiting news, and we're going to jump into verbal commitment news for OU. So I was able to get the decommit news to you guys on our last show about Jaden O'Neal, but I wasn't able to get the Bo Bentley news. It occurred about 12 hours after I posted it. But that was my window to give you guys a podcast for the weekend, so I needed to take it. So we'll talk about Bo Bentley today on this episode. But let's jump into the other verbal commitments first, and we'll talk about what I consider to be a recommitment, kind of. So the first commitment we're going to talk about is Bo Jandreau, who is Nico Jandreau's twin brother, the linebacker from Hamilton, Arizona. He's listed at 6'1", 215. He is a 3-star right now. ESPN hasn't even evaluated him, which is not surprising for ESPN because they don't frequently get to their evaluations. Rivals has him as a high 3-star, as the number 37 linebacker in the country. On3 and 247 have him around one of them has him 114 and the other one has him 120. So there's a pretty wide disparity in opinions and views about Bo. While this was an expected commitment when OU picked up his twin brother Nico, Oregon and Texas took this recruiting to the very edge. Bo visited them both officially before visiting OU. They both really wanted him, and OU was able to win this recruiting battle. So between Dan Lanning's assessment of linebacker play, UT's defensive coordinator Kwiatkowski, he's a long-term he's a long-time linebacker coach, And then at OU itself, you've got Brent Venables' evaluation, Dryling's evaluation, and finally, you've got Goodwin's evaluation. So there's something going on with Bo Jandreau at the linebacker spot that On3 and 247 appear to have missed. Now, to quote another podcast, Josh McCuistion, over on Sooner Scoop, has on their YouTube podcast said that he has sources telling him that Jandreau is a top 10 national linebacker, maybe the best linebacker on the West Coast. And this is all from folks who saw him during spring. Now, Bo was hurt for some period of time during his junior year. He only played 6 games. He had 90 tackles, 3 sacks, and an interception during that time. So highly productive at the linebacker spot. That's nearly 15 tackles a game. Basically, that's right around 15 tackles a game, which is pretty damn productive. And then all these programs went and saw Bo during the evaluation period during the spring, and that's when he blew up. He got all of these offers. He was getting offers Nico wasn't getting, because Nico's a little smaller. As I've mentioned before, Nico's a perfect cheetah for OU and for the OU defense, but doesn't fit every defensive scheme. But for the OU scheme, he's a perfect fit. But Bo got offers from USC, as I said, Oregon, Texas, just a whole bunch of schools. Big-time offers, most of the big-time players. So apparently when they went to see him in spring, he was fundamentally different than he looked on film as a junior. So his senior film is going to be very interesting to track and see if it leads to a sort of an upswing in his overall rankings. OU doesn't really care. So, from that perspective, and the evaluations on him, you've got that many linebacker savants, for lack of a better word, or experienced linebacker coaches. You kind of have to give them their sway. Now, I have, in certain podcasts and on other discussions, I've been a little lukewarm on Bo, mainly because, in the photos, he doesn't look 6'1", and is he 215 pounds? If he is, okay. If he really is 6'1" in socks and 215 pounds, then I'm ready to retract. And he's now currently 215. I'm ready to retract some of my concerns a little bit. But when you think about the Mike linebackers OU's that have started for OU recently under Brent, and the guys that they have signed and the guys that they have also offered at Mike linebacker. So their last middle linebacker who started was Stutzman, who was, 6'3.5", nearly 6'4". Kobe McKenzie is every bit 6'2". James Nesta is 6'3". Marcus James, who has enrolled on campus and apparently looks fantastic, is every bit 6'4". In this class, the guy I think OU still will want, Braxton Lindsey, is every bit 6'3". They went after, if they could have gotten him, they would have signed Talanoa Ely in an instant, and he's nearly 6'4". They would have loved to have been in the final group for Sincere Johnson, who chose Ohio State, and he's nearly 6'3". He's definitely 6'3" in that height range. So, OU is tracking to a certain type at Mike linebacker, and it would seem Bo goes against that type. Now, the obvious counterexample of this, the OU kind of comp that you could easily go with is Curtis Lofton, who was 6 foot at the NFL Combine, and he was an All-American at OU. And if, I think all of us basically feel like if Curtis had returned for his senior year, OU would win the national championship. With him on the 2008 defense, OU goes undefeated. I strongly feel that. Anybody can argue with me if they want. He was also 240 pounds, around 240 at OU, 235, 240. So, and then he was 244 and he ran a 4.65, 4.63 at NFL Combine. So if Bo is 6'1" and can hold 235 in college and keep something close to his 4.5 speed, then I will kindly retract all of my concerns about his frame. Now, again, on film, his junior year film's good. He's very active. He's very powerful, very physical, shows some good blitz instincts, has a feel for blitzing, which not all linebackers do. Shows excellent sideline to sideline speed. And he is, again, like his brother, he's bringing the hammer to guys if he can. So he's very physical. So we'll see how this goes out. I do think he's a Mike linebacker. He's not a Will linebacker. I think Ja'Cory Smith fits that role. I think Braxton Lindsey probably could float between either role. He's athletic enough to do that. So if OU can get Braxton Lindsey to go with Ja'Cory Smith and to go with Bo Jandreau, that's a good linebacker group. There's 3 good players who have good development runways and have clear spots on where they should be on the OU defense. So that's Bo Jandreau. a story to really keep evaluating as the year goes on. Again, like I said, that's a lot of linebacker talent from a coaching standpoint to all be reviewing, to all be obsessed with signing the number 120th linebacker in the country. So the recommit I'm going to talk about is Daniel Odom, the wide receiver from California, who committed way back, I think it was in January at this point, connected to Jaden O'Neal, and generally thought that Jaden O'Neal was going to leave OU and Daniel Odom was going to follow him. Well, now Jaden's left. Daniel still came in for the BBQU weekend, apparently had a great weekend, and on social media was recruiting for OU and appears to be back. Not that he ever really left the OU fold, but appears to be, I would say, leaning towards staying in the wide receiver class and staying in the OU class. This is probably due to, Emmett Jones obviously does a great job recruiting wide receivers. And I think this is what happened here. I also wonder perhaps if, Emmett was able to kind of clarify that the FSU offense with Gus isn't exactly a wide receiver dream. Name an Auburn wide receiver under Gus. Name a UCF wide receiver. I mean, it's running backs, it's running quarterbacks, and it's zone read, very simple zone read passing game. So not exactly wide receiver, not exactly a wide receiver's dream. So I wonder if a little bit of that got to him. Also, Florida's all the way on the other side of the coast. LA to Oklahoma City is one flight. A lot of California players for OU. OU also has a California guy on Nagy's staff. A lot of connections. Was formerly at UCLA. Wonder if perhaps he was involved in keeping Odom in the fold. But either way, Daniel Odom appears to be in the fold and not decommitting. The next commitment is the guy who's committed most recently, and it is Daniel Norman from St. Augustine High School in Fort Lauderdale, where Nick Benito was from and a host of other players. This is a little bit of a surprise. I don't think a lot of folks had OU winning this recruiting battle. OU offered him very early. This was one of Nagy's offer evaluations made when his team started looking at high school film. So at defensive end, Daniel and Miguel Chavis landed this guy in about 6 weeks. From Florida, away from LSU, Miami, Penn State, and several other schools that have been recruiting him longer. Norman's 6'4", 6'5", 230, massive wingspan, big frame, looks great on film, probably can easily carry 250, 260, so he could fill the role of the bigger defensive end in the class. It's a great pickup. He had good stats last year on a talented St. Augustine defense. So we'll see what he does this year. But I think this is a very good. I mean, he's a top 200 player by On3. He's a 5'8", 4-star at Rivals, and the other services. I don't think they've quite picked up on him. I mean, 247's listing like 6'4", 205, and he's nowhere near that small. So he's good pickup by OU. Good job by Miguel Chavis again, and I like his potential. If he comes in early, I could see him helping OU after a year. He's that physical. He's got that he's got the measurables. This is a potential NFL defensive end. All SEC type defensive end. He has that skill template based upon his size, speed, wingspan, length, explosion, twitch, whatever you want to call it. So really like this pickup. Good job by Daniel Odom. Good job by Miguel Chavis there. It's really a good pickup for the Sooners. I think he'll be a composite 4-star, top 100, fringe top 100, top 150 type guy when everything works out. And you have to love OU getting another player from the powerhouse that is Fort Lauderdale St. Augustine. I'm stealing this from somebody else. Joe Castiglione is apparently attended that high school. So OU's got some, I don't know if that gives OU any cachet there, but obviously, OU was able to sign Nick Benito out there. Nick was a fantastic college player, has turned into a fantastic pro where he's about to sign a big-time contract after his pass rushing stats last year for the Broncos. So like Norman and Nelson gives OU a great start at defensive end. OU needed it because they undersigned last year, in my opinion. Nixon needs time to develop, and I'm not sure where Shield Knight fits in at defensive end. So to add more talent to that room, good job by Miguel Chavis so far, but we'll get to it. There's more news coming. Then OU has a verbal commitment from Trace Rudd, the kicker. Trace is there's two kicking camps. For those that don't know, there are two kicking camps. One is called the Cole camp, and I believe the other one is the Salier camp. And most college special teams programs tend to pull from one of the two camps and kind of specialize. And OU's special teams guy Deacons tends to like what Cole's doing with his kicking games. And Rudd is basically a top 5 kicker for 2026 on the Cole circuit. He's a lefty. His film kicking looks really pretty impressive. He's got a powerful leg, shows good accuracy. So this is a good pickup, good addition to the special teams room, the kicking room. OU obviously picked up the kicker from UTSA that they really like. And he's not going to be around forever. So I think he only has 2 years to play for the Sooners. I think he's a junior. Pretty sure he's a junior. So by the time he leaves, Rudd could be ready to take over. All right, let's get to the QB part of this. I kind of buried the lead a little bit. So Jaden O'Neal has committed to FSU. He's now an FSU commit. Congrats to Jaden. I'm glad the situation, while not ideal, worked out so you were able to grab a school you like and a school you feel like wants you. Happy for you. Good kid, great kid. His dad's been very, very generous in his conversations with me. And, all best wishes to Jaden O'Neal. Hope he has a fantastic year at Mustang. Hope he blows it out, proves all of the ranking detractors wrong. And if he's not playing OU, I hope he has a great career at FSU. So props to Jaden for handling this professionally and his family for handling this professionally. I don't like how we got here, but Jaden's at FSU, so congrats to Jaden. This is an OU podcast, so we're going to focus on the Bo Bentley commitment. So Bo Bentley, it looks like Bo Bentley kind of knew that he wanted to go to OU either before Elite 11 or while he was at Elite 11, because it just broke as soon as he got home from Elite 11. He verbaled Friday night, was in Norman for the barbecue weekend, Friday, Saturday, recruiting wide receivers, recruiting offensive linemen, and kind of firmly establishing himself as the leader of the class. Now, OU really should have locked this up 5 months ago, so Bo would have been doing this for 5 months. But, it's not. We'll just move on to how Bo. We'll move to where. What does Bo Bentley bring to Oklahoma? So when you think about Bo Bentley, the first thing you think about is that he won a state 4A championship in Texas last year for Salina. They went undefeated. He looked fantastic last year in his junior film, rushing, throwing the ball, scoring. He's ranked right now. ESPN, again, is the outlier here. He's ranked as high as 41 in the nation. 247 has him as number 78. Rivals at 100. But after his showing at Elite 11, where he was probably the number 5 or 4 quarterback there, he's probably going to end up being a consensus 5-star quarterback because he's got another great year at Salina. He'll probably end up being a top 5 quarterback in the country. Does that mean he's a 5-star quarterback? I don't know. It'll have to see. But he's at on 3 right now. He's 41 in the country. That was before the Elite 11. And I can see them easily moving him up to somewhere in the 25, 26 range. It just depends if, with their new ranking system, the new on 3 rivals or on rivals or rivals 3, I don't know what their combo brand name, if they're going to do something silly like that. But he's going to end up being probably a fringe 5-star or a 5-star quarterback with probably a top 5 QB rating. When I watch his video, it's simple. It's kind of simple what you see. He looks like the next John Mateer. He's in my view, he's his big 3 areas where he checks the box. He's comfortable throwing from the pocket, hitting receivers, reading the field, and hitting receivers in stride per the play call. He's comfortable when things break down and he has to scramble and throw on the run. And he does that while maintaining accuracy and has a good arm strength while on the run. He can zip the ball in there if he's having to scramble around. He's also comfortable executing the QB run game. And he's also very comfortable scrambling and moving the chains and, when situations break down and grabbing 6, 7 yards, 10 yards, moving the chains and keeping the offense moving. So he does all of those things that we see Mateer do from his Wazoo highlights. This is why Ben Arbuckle wanted him. This is why he's a good fit for Ben Arbuckle's offense. So really, this is what you're getting with Bo Bentley. He's got extreme arm talent. His highlights show that he's able to make something out of nothing, which is sort of the final step for the college quarterback in its current environment. So it's a huge pickup for OU. If OU had lost Jaden O'Neal and then lost Bo Bentley to LSU, this podcast would be taking a very different tone, because OU would have legitimately screwed up this quarterback situation to have no quarterbacks and be back at square one. So it's a huge addition. To get an elite quarterback, and like I said, when he went to the Elite 11, he was probably ranked around 15th in the Elite 11, calculations, and he ended it right around 4 or 5. So he had a very big day at Elite 11. So this is big. This is a big acquisition, big commitment for OU. Sets the stage for the rest of the recruiting class. If you lose if you lose John Mateer after one season, hopefully a great season for OU, and then you have Michael Hawkins takes over, and let's say Michael Hawkins has a great season, you'd have Bo Bentley ready, in 2027 to potentially be the guy who could take over. That's a possible way this thing works. I don't know that's the way it will work. That's possibly how it could work. So, it's really it's a good job. It's a good job by Ben Arbuckle making sure he got his guy. I won't talk about the other nonsense, but this is the guy he wanted. This is the guy he got. And that's what you ideally want your QB talent evaluator to do. I'm confident in this guy. I want this guy. Go get this guy. So that's the commitment update. Positive for OU. And now let's talk about some of the strange losses OU's taking and are probably going to take further moving forward. So Danny Odom, who I felt like coming out of the 6-6 weekend, the Florida cornerback, had OU in front. Apparently he visited Nebraska, and Nebraska flipped him, and he chose Nebraska. He chose Nebraska over Ohio State, Clemson, and OU. So Nebraska went just stupid dollars-wise to get Danny Odom. Nebraska lost their best cornerback, C.J. Brunau, I think he flipped to Florida. He's from Florida, so they really needed a big-time cornerback to add to the class. OU got Derek Johnson on 6'6", So they only needed one cornerback in this class. I was explaining to somebody that they signed 3 cornerbacks in 2025 and 3 in 2024. So they didn't need 3 cornerbacks in this class. They and in 2027, it's starting to look like they have a number of guys lined up, including maybe Derek Johnson's top 100 brother Darius. Then we've got Trenton Blaylock, Tory Blaylock's brother. OU's been heavily involved with Montre Jackson, another top 100 cornerback. You've got Tyler Mayo from, I believe, Louisville, and the Louisville is also like a top 200, top 100 type guy. So they've got as Bryce Brown in the Tulsa area, in-state as a cornerback. So you've got like a lot of guys at cornerback, so the OU could sign 3 guys next year and balance things out a little bit. Then I'll call it a shocking turn. Dallas Dickerson verbaled with UK, with Kentucky. This seemed like OU, then Kentucky. Now, I don't know if this is Kentucky spending like Nebraska was spending, and OU's like, yeah, we like Dallas Dickerson, but, Jim Nagy says, but at a certain dollar point. And UK just went flying over that. So that happened today. Could OU double back to Dickerson during the season if they need another wide receiver? I think OU could easily do that. UK is not predicted to have a good season. Their passing game is crap. Always has been, really. That's why they lose wide receivers in the portal. If OU's doing well with Mateer and the passing game under Ben Arbuckle is humming, wide receivers are playing well, I think OU could easily go back to Dallas Dickerson and flip him from Kentucky if they want to. Or should I say if they need to? The really strange one to me is Devon Robinson. He just chose TCU. All signs pointed towards OU. And then he visited OU, and then he decides that he's going to choose TCU. Could this be money? Sure. I don't have an explanation here. I don't know why Devon Robinson, who wanted an OU offer so badly, got his OU offer, just canceled a visit from someone else, scheduled to visit OU on the last weekend for the BBQU weekend, and then comes out of that after having what appeared to be a great time at the BBQU event, and then 2 days later, he's choosing TCU. So this is a strange loss. I don't really know quite how to explain it, but he's verbally committed to TCU. With the loss of Will Conroy and Devon Robinson, OU's down to 1 offensive line commitment and really only has 2 other offensive linemen in play. I'll get to those in a second. So you have to figure some fall offensive line recruiting has to happen. And maybe Nagy and Bill have decided they want to see some senior film from some players, then offer and then make some move on some guys and see how they've developed and what level they're at. I think you're going to see this a little bit more with OU. Brent used to like to get OU's classes finished before they played their first game. I think Nagy is going to ask Brent, is going to coordinate with Brent to hold off and have some ships available to reevaluate some guys once their senior year starts, especially maybe from a dollar standpoint. Okay, as a junior, you were worth X. I've looked at your senior film. Now you're worth 1.5X or 2X. I don't know. But I think that's, other than OU having a tiny offensive line class, and that's how we got into the problems of last year, depth-wise and talent-wise, I would hope that's not going to happen again. OU could get lucky on 6/26 and get a commitment from Desmond Green, the big offensive guard from South Carolina. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. UF or South Carolina maybe, or Georgia. It doesn't sound like OU unless something strange is going on and OU has pulled off something behind the scenes that not even OU sites are kind of aware of. Then we have Craig Dandridge, who's announcing on that day, the wide receiver from Georgia who just visited OU. apparently had a great visit from his social media interactions and all that. UGA is obviously in play. I think UGA is probably the favorite for Dandridge. Before they lost the wide receiver to Miami, I think UGA might have decided, well, we're going in other directions at wide receiver, so I give OU a chance to kind of grab a lead and grab a commitment. But UGA just lost that wide receiver to Miami. I think his last name is Spafford. He's from California. So UGA has to be upping their pressure and their recruiting efforts for Dandridge. So I don't think OU is going to win that battle. Then on Friday, I think he said Friday. I'm not going to double check it because Taj Overton's apparently going to OSU, despite the fact OSU wasn't in his top 6, wasn't really a presence in his recruiting. He's apparently choosing OSU because OSU is dropping a large amount of money at him. They're doing what they did with Caden Jones, and the number they're offering. Nagy and OU are saying, yeah, we're not competing at that number, at least not right now. So expect Taj Overton, unless something has drastically changed, to choose OSU. So another strange loss based upon what appeared to be the scenario for everyone prior to the weekend and during the weekend. Now on 6/28, Deacon Schmidt from Colorado announces, and it looks like OU is right now out in front of Bama and Colorado and should grab the offensive tackle. He's a right tackle that they want to add to the class. So you'd have Noah Best, who can play center or either guard spot, and then you have Deacon Schmidt to combine with Michael Fasusi last year and Foje last year, both of who could be left tackles. And Schmidt is your plug and play future right tackle. Just would be excellent in the position. 6'5", 320, physical. Probably doesn't have the elite athleticism for left tackle, but he's got the right tackle position. He can lock that down. And if you need to move him inside, he would be excellent at offensive guard too. Then keep listing this because just about everybody, most of the folks OU is recruiting have set decision dates. So then we got Braden Presley on 7-3, the Bixby cornerback safety, whose brothers both went to OSU. Generally, I'm of the belief that once 2 brothers go to OSU, the 3rd brother's going to OSU. But maybe Braden's, seen the light. Maybe Brandon Hall has broken through that. Like the middle Presley brother transferred out of OSU and went to Tulsa. So the oldest Presley brother had the big OSU career. The second one left OSU, went to Tulsa, and now Braden has given OU a real look. OU had him on campus. We'll see where he is with that. Then on 7-7, Tyler Ruxer, everything points to OU. That gives OU 2 tight ends, 2 4-star tight ends. Seriously rehabs the entire tight end room. Still haven't heard anything about Josiah Jefferson and in terms of if he can be part of the 2025 class at tight end. So stay tuned on that. Still working through some academic or NCAA waiver kind of noise about that. I think that's what's the holdup. Then we have top 100 wide receiver Jordan Clay from San Antonio, who just visited over the weekend. Looks like it's an OU Baylor battle. OU might have the lead. Baylor probably has a little bit of a lead, but OU certainly could erase that if they want to. Don't underestimate Emmett Jones in these kind of circumstances, pulling off something at the last minute, flipping it, getting some extra momentum and making some noise and turning Clay to OU. Then we have Duncanville tight end wide receiver Zach Turner announcing 7-12. It looks like Miami over OU for this. But Miami, I think, wants him at tight end, and OU wants him at wide receiver. So Miami's offering more money. I think OU's offering him the better, legitimate NFL prospect path because he's 6'2", 205, 210. So he's got like 30 pounds to put on his frame to become like an H-back. Also, Miami just got a recent tight end verbal. His name is Israel Briggs from Arizona. He's like 6'5", 210, 215. So he's a bigger frame, bigger kid. He's like a top 100 player. I don't know if that might change the Turner's opinion, if OU can leverage this to perhaps flip this. So we'll see what happens there. Still waiting on a date from Braxton Lindsey, the 6'3", 220-pound Arkansas linebacker. He should be done with his visits. I think we should be hearing something soon. No indication that OU has lost their lead they established on 6'6". But OU's been losing some of their 6'6 lead, the guys they had leads on from the 6'6 weekend. So be nice to get a date from Braxton and get some updates from him. So in the way of other updates, some stuff that's just landed in that last day or two, something that just landed in the last couple of hours. Jake Krull, the IMG defensive end who visited this weekend, has just been predicted to OU. Krull is at the 5-star event, Rivals 5-star event. I'm not sure exactly what that was, but he's last been seen in a pass rushing drill abusing Felix Ojo quite badly in several reps. That was kind of a trend for the day. Ojo had a bad day. He's obviously extremely talented. These camp events don't always aid offensive linemen versus defensive ends, but Krull kind of made him look silly. Then we've got a prediction of Davion Gross, the super talented top 50 player in the country from Lone Star Frisco, the wide receiver. He's also been predicted to OU. Krull and Gross, in addition to Bentley, would give OU 3 top 50 type players, which that would be that's a good basis for any recruiting class. We don't have any updates from DeAnthony Lafayette after his OU visit. Again, on social media, he looked like he was having a great time. I believe he was wearing a Nick Benito jersey, the 52 Bronco jersey. I think that was him. And he looks like, R. Mason Thomas and Nick Benito are 2 easy comps for DeAnthony Lafayette. That would give OU, with Jake Krull, 4 defensive ends, and I don't think that's a problem, restocking that room with some of the graduation losses and undersigning the last 2 years a little bit. Also, don't have an update from Jacob Eberhardt, this big safety from St. Louis area, I believe, Missouri. On social media, he appeared to be having the time of his life in Norman. There is an issue that he's a legacy for Illinois. Illinois has got a good team right now. They've been doing good in recruiting. We'll see which way this goes. He would be a big pickup at safety, another top 250 guy, top 200 guy for Brandon Hall. Then the only other news of note is Peyton Houston is at the 5-star Rivals event, and he was throwing today, and he looked good in the highlights I saw. So 247's, one of the 247's writer, Brandon Drum, just put in a prediction for Peyton Houston to OU. Drum is at the 5-star event. I don't know if he just decided to go ahead and put this in, or if he's talked to Houston and Houston's given him an indication that, OU is maybe where I'm leaning, and this is kind of a lean prediction. It was general conventional wisdom on this recruiting battle was that Houston wanted to wait and see what OU's season looks like, and if OU rallied and material looked good, that he would think about that he might pull the trigger for OU this fall, or if OU was struggling, he would maybe look at some other schools. In principle, probably Clemson, maybe Texas, but we'll see what happens with this prediction in the next couple of weeks. But other than that, it is a dead period. We've got all these decisions coming down. I'll have an update for you guys It's Tuesday. I'll have an update for you guys Friday or Saturday morning, depending upon how the commitments go. I might wait until after Deacon Schmidt commits, because I think that's the only one that really looks like it's going to go OU's way over the next 4 or 5 days. Always want to start the podcast with an OU commit. So thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your audio platform of choice, and don't forget to leave a rating. If you're on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We've gotten some more subscribers lately. That's very good to see. And also one last pitch again. Please visit patreon.com/Sooners360817, or just go to patreon.com, search for Sooners360, and subscribe for all of the recruiting content online. Again, it's only $2 a month. There's a free trial, and that Patreon site helps me keep this podcast rolling, helps me keep this podcast free. So hope everyone enjoys their week, and maybe we'll have some upsets and I'll have more commitments to talk about, or maybe some other guys who I didn't mention will finally go public and maybe they'll be choosing OU. So recruiting's still going. We're going to have to talk a little bit about after some of these losses, OU's going to have to reconfigure where they are a little bit. So we'll also be talking about that in future podcasts as well. Bye.